So today is February 26, 2020. We're at the home of Mr. Hoang Nguyen, and we're interviewing him for the Houston Asian American Archive. My name is Priscilla Li.
And I'm Gordan Liu.
Okay, so we'll start out with the first question, which is, where and when were you born?
First of all, my name is Hoang Nguyen. I was born in Hue. Hue is the central city of Vietnam. In 1952, in the family of 8. I'm the oldest. My father worked for the government, and my mom, she was always a housewife. You want me to talk about my school or childhood and all that? Yeah. I attended a Catholic elementary school taught by Catholic priests until I was like 12 years old. After that, I attended another French Catholic school, which taught by French priests in Hue. In 1968, our family moved to Da Nang. Da Nang is a big city that located around 2 hours south of Hue, where I attended high school, and I graduated high school in 1970.
How did Catholic values shape the person you became growing up?
Yeah, I'm a devoted Catholic, just like my father and my mother family. We are very religious. That taught us a lot of value, faith, and love one each other.
And as the eldest child, did you have the responsibility of taking care of your younger siblings?
You talk about my family? Yes. Since I'm the oldest, I always, took care of my 7 other brothers and sisters. Since my father always away from home, I'm just like a father in the house, I put a lot of discipline on my kids, brothers and sisters. After I graduated from high school in 1970, I went to Đà Lạt University, which is located in Highland, Vietnam, and major in business and economics. Remember, in 1970, the American troops started to withdraw from Vietnam, and they have a program called Vietnamize the War. Means they want us to fight by ourselves. Okay, so the government decided to draft a lot of young men to the army to fill in the voice of those American troops who were real, right? So since based on my educations, they want me to become an officer. In 1970, I was drafted, 1972. After 2 years in college, I was drafted to military. And they sent me to a school, is the school of Army, the military school of the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, where I was trained to become a young officer. In 1973, 1 year later, I was graduated from that academy and assigned to battalion in combat. So I spent a couple of years in combat as a young lieutenant. Let's talk about a little bit about the war. I was in the war was terrible, and since the American troops withdrew, we very much fighting the war by ourselves without a lot of support, without a lot of artillery support or air support or even evacuation support for the wounded soldiers. We did desperately fight the war, and later on we know that the Americans already want to abandon us. Later on we know that, but at that moment we didn't know. We just want to keep fighting and for our freedom against the North Vietnamese who came invading us and want to liberate us. Yeah, we don't want them to liberate us, but that's what they want. And again, I've been in that combat zone for 2 years, and I've been involved in a lot of fighting. I was fortunate to not being killed. In 1973, 1974, I was very fortunate to be called in back to the headquarters and served a colonel. He's a chief of the province, and then he wanted me to serve him as a chief of staff. So that's why I survived the war. Why most of my comrades, most of my young officer, was killed. There was a lot of young officer was killed. I mean, the death rate for young officer is very high. Life expectancy for a lieutenant out there in the war is like a couple of years, something like that. So, anyway, in the April of 1975, when the North Vietnamese pushing to capture the city of Saigon, right? They have to go through our province. So it was a lot of fierce fighting, a big battle, and then they capture our province. But I was fortunate to escape by foot. Back to Saigon was the capital of Vietnam. And from Saigon, I was again fortunate to get on a boat to get out of the sea. So a lot of my friends, my soldiers, my comrades was captured, killed, but I was fortunate to get out. So that's it. I'm get on the boat, get out of Vietnam, and from there I was picked up by the U.S. Navy. The Seventh Fleet, the Pacific 7th Fleet picked me up and then sent me to Philippines, and then finally in Guam Island. Guam Island is a small island in the Pacific, owned by the Americans. From there, for a few months, I was sent to California to a camp where they are processing my paperwork in order to settle me down in anywhere in the state. So by that time, my brother-in-law was a medical doctor in the army, Vietnamese army medical doctor. He was in San Antonio to attend some extra training. So he got stuck here. He couldn't go home, right? So he also got a reason to stay. He's the one who came to Houston and sponsored me. Because when we in the camp, somebody had to sponsor you in order for you to get to come out and live in with the sponsors. So I came to Houston because he's living in Houston. If you ask me why did I end up in Houston, that's the reason. I don't know where I can go anywhere. When you in camp, anybody sponsor me, I can go. But finally he sponsored me, and I came to Houston in July 7 of 1975. That's the day that I came to Houston. Yes. All right.
What was the year you got on the boat and was able to escape Vietnam?
I'm sorry.
What year was it that you got on the boat and escaped?
It's April of 1975.
Okay.
And then 3 months later, I landed in Houston.
Oh.
After went through many different processing camps. Yeah.
And then going back to when you were in school, college for business and economics, and then you got drafted, can you describe like how you felt during that time and how your classmates felt?
In Vietnam, right?
In Vietnam.
The college in Vietnam. That was the most enjoyable years in my life. 2 years when the war was out there, the war was terrible, but I'm still in college, so I'm enjoying my life, you know, until I was drafted, and I say, it's my turn.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, okay.
So where I met my wife.
Oh, okay.
I met my wife when we were a freshman at the university, Dalat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and when I was drafted to the army, and then after I graduated from the school in the army, I married her. And our son was born in 1973.
Okay. So while you were in combat as like a lieutenant, what was happening? Where was your family? Like, so your immediate family, and then.
My mom and my family is still in Da Nang,
Okay.
where I attended high school.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's family is in Saigon,
Mm-hmm.
and my son is in Saigon.
Okay. And so then, going to your migration out of Vietnam, how did you get your family to come to like join you in the States?
When I went back to Saigon, I mentioned to you that when the city that I was stationed was captured, and I escaped by foot back to Saigon. My wife's family was already get out.
Okay.
So when I came back and I looked for them, they are gone. Okay, so I know they're already gone. So it's okay. I'm not worried about them anymore. I'm just find a way to get out.
Okay.
And when I came to Guam Island, I looked through the Red Cross, and I found them. They already been through the same place I was there, but they ahead of me, like a month. So they already in San Antonio.
Oh, because your brother-in-law.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So I guess when you were growing up as a child in Vietnam, what kind of subjects interested you? Because you ended up studying business and economics in college in Vietnam.
Yeah, it's strange that I'm not. I don't like math, you know. So I'm decided. I'm go to business, administrations or economic or something. I'm not very good in math, but because I don't like math, you know. So that's a subject I don't like. Is that answer the question or what?
Mm-hmm. And then what led you to choose like business as like a major form, like your study, like your major, I guess. Like what? Because you didn't like math, so that's why you chose business.
Because I don't like math.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I choose something else. It's away from math.
Okay.
Economics and counting, you know, business administration, something like that. But later on, when I went to A&M, I will tell you the story about differently.
Okay.
So the second part of it is I came to the United States in July 7, 1975. Okay. So when I came, many questions you have in there was a different culture, different thing. Oh, something different. You know, I never thought in my life that I would come to the United States. Okay. So when I arrived, I'm stuck. I remember this. Most of my childhood life, all the way from stuck like elementary to all the way to college, French is the second language. Okay, so when I came here, I said, "Oh my God, what I'm gonna do?" It completely English is completely different. So I reunited with my wife and my son in Houston. Okay, so it's hard. The hardship begins when I have to go out there and look for work to pay for the apartment and food. I decided to, since I was only 23 years old, I decided to go back to school. How do I do that? First thing I need to do is to learn English. Okay, so I work as a store clerk at the convenience store. Me and my wife both work. She worked first shift, I work second shift. I go to school, I went to school in the first shift, and the school calls English as second language. So I learned about English for like a year, almost 2 years, and working as a clerk and learning English. 1977, 2 years later, I applied for Texas A&M, and they accepted me. After I passed the TOEFL, you know what TOEFL meant, right? Oh man, the TOEFL was hard. It's very hard. So anyway, they require like 550 points to be accepted to a college. Thank you, sir. So I was accepted to Texas A&M, and I did something really amazing. I attended the School of Engineering, with a lot of math, you know, and I was struggling a little bit at the first year, but I managed to went to school, have a wife, have a kid. Life was unbelievable, you know. I mean, my wife was she dedicated person. She support me the most, the best out of everything she can do to get me through school. So I had to say that my degree in engineering at Texas A&M was, you know, is her, for her to, you know. So in 1981, I graduated from A&M in engineering degree, with a ton of student loan, believe it or not. You know, I just borrow as much as I can to support back to her and my son. So life in campus, A&M campus, was not very pleasant, since I have little money to spend to survive. Sometime I was thinking about, maybe I was in combat in Vietnam and my life was a lot better than I went to stay in campus at A&M. It's awful, right? But that's what his strand thought. Go to school is different, I'm telling you. I can do anything, but go to school is just... So I admire you guy. I mean, young and intelligent. Smart to get in rice, right? Anyway, 1981 I graduated from A&M. The economy of Houston economy was going down due to the oil and gas recession. So I couldn't find me an engineering job. I went to work for financial company and learned to become a financial planner with engineering degree. And a couple of years later, I was approached by a recruiter from the U.S. Army. And he asked me, if you want me to, you know, I want to join I'm not, say, joining the Army, but I come to work for the U.S. Army as a civilian. Not a uniform person, okay? So I say, okay, why not? They pay me salary and insurance and all that, send me to school. So again, back again, I go back to school, which I don't like much. So after 2 years from a graduate school in Texarkana, Arkansas. I graduated again. I graduated so many times in my life. Because of the obligation with the U.S. Army, I have to work for them. If they send me to school for 2 years, I have to work at least for 2 years to meet the obligation. So they sent me up all the way to New Jersey, and to work as a production engineer, and it's far away from my family is still here. My wife and kids is here in Houston, and I'm away. So I find a way to meet the obligations and complete the requirement and move back to Houston. In 1990, back to Houston. And I was fortunate to get a job from oil and gas company. And believe it or not, 30 years already, from 1990 to now to 2020. So I've been in oil and gas for 30 years, and during that 30 years, I've been a manager for 20 years. I'm still working for Schlumberger as a quality tech engineer.
So what kind of challenges did you face along the way, like moving from Arkansas, you said, to New Jersey, and also like being away from family? I guess challenges in the sense of like socially as well as like at your job. What kind of challenges did you face overall?
What kind of
challenges?
Yes. I spent a lot of money from my salary buying an airplane ticket. I miss my family so much. I like to fly home every weekend, but it costs so much. But anyway, yes, life was alone is miserable. I don't know what my son was doing. When I was away, my wife and my son had to live with my sister-in-law because, financially they have to stick with them to survive. Anyway, life away from home in military was miserable, and also away from work. For work is also, not pleasant. So I find any which way I can to come home here in Houston.
Okay.
So in 1990, I finally came back to Houston.
How about language-wise and being accepted as like a Vietnamese, as a person of Vietnamese descent at like the different jobs you held? Did you face any discrimination or had any like language barriers? I know you said you went to ESL school.
For work, right? Mm-hmm. For life, yes. As an immigrant come to the United States, I was facing the difficulty just like all the immigrants come from the whole world, right? The first barrier is the language. It was easy for Europeans or even the Filipinos because they're closer to the English than us. Our language is completely different. Okay, we didn't. Chinese different than us, and Cambodia kind of different than us, and the language is a lot. Since I went to school for the first year as a freshman at A&M, I have a lot of hardship because of the language. Even after I graduated, I still not fluent enough to compete with my other candidates in order to get a job. And as an immigrant, for me, I have to be a lot of dedication. I have to put more works, more dedications, maybe 50% more than a white man in order to be equivalent. Do you follow me? You know, as the Asian like us, we gotta work a lot harder, a lot of dedication in order to be equivalent to the same guy who speak English. So I told my kids that. I say, in order for you guys to be successful, you have to be, if they have a bachelor, you have to have a master minimum. If they have a master, you have to have a PhD in order to be the same level with them. You know what I'm talking about.
So what are some other lessons you tried to ingrain in your children? What values did you want?
The value I want them to is, number one is they have to look at, family is the number one, okay? No matter how successful they are, family is always the number one. They have to think about that. The value of the family and the value of, since we Asian and we say we always respect our elderly, respect the grandparents and parents and all that. If I call myself as a first generation, right? My children are the second generation. The second generation I'm going to make sure that them have to follow our cultures, our tradition as close as possible, because if not, then they will drip away. Okay, I'm not talking about the third generation yet. Okay, but I'm talking about the second. I mean, I will have to pull my son and my daughter close to me as possible, and ask them to speak Vietnamese in home. They go to church with me. They eat the traditional food. They celebrate New Year. All that had to be, I had to insert all that in their head so they don't never forget. But I'm telling you, they will forget someday. If we don't unforce that. I'm worried about the third generation later, but for, I don't know, are you a second generation or third? You born in here?
Yes.
Okay, see? My son was born in Vietnam and he came here when he was 2. And he's just like an American. He doesn't speak well Vietnamese. He spoke Vietnamese. My daughter too, both of them, but they are not fluent like I want them to be. Okay?
I guess can you describe your time at, is it Schlumberger? And like the...
Schlumberger?
Yeah, Schlumberger, and the strengths that you feel like you had to succeed in such a major company.
The reason that I have to say that I've been success as a leader in the company due to number one, I was trained in Vietnam in the military to be a leader, and I brought that with me. Insert in my, I have, if you want to be a leader, you have to make sure that you have to make a good example for people to follow you. So when they asked me to become a manager, and I was a whoa minute, manage a lot of people, Hawaii, black, or different kind of people. Can I do this? And they say, well, why not? Why try? And I was successful at the first time. I put 2 people together because I number one, I respect them as a human. When I ask them to do something, I ask them with a different way rather than be a boss. Okay? And I am there when they needed me. And I support them everything they need. And it become a success. I mean, when you be a leader, you want to become a successful leader. That's what you need to do. And amazingly, that I had been a manager for 20 years, and most of my college was the manager with me. They lost job, they demoted, they got laid off and all that, and I'm amazing. I'm still around, and it's just amazing. I have to say I'm very fortunate. But the leadership that I learned from the military school was very beneficial for me when I came here and applied what I learned into the working life.
So you didn't change your management style throughout, you kept it the same, like the same mindset to lead a group of people? Like it didn't like your management style didn't change?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay.
Mm-mm.
Let's see. And then, I guess, can you describe more of like, I guess, examples of like challenges you've had in managing like different people from different backgrounds? Anything like off the top of your head that you can mention?
You asking me about management style?
Mm-hmm. Or like an example that you've had like a challenge to manage like different people that you faced?
Oh, I have a lot of story to tell you, but let me rephrase the question so I understand.
Mm-hmm.
You asked me about management style with two different type of people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. First of all, I treat them the same. Either they Vietnamese, they Asian, they black, they Mexican, they white. Doesn't matter. I treat them the same. Fair, always fair. If they come to me for any reason, even beside working environment, their problem at home, I help them out too. I can give them time off to go support their mother, their cousins, and a couple of times I give a guy money so he can go buy school supply for his kids. And when the guy went through the divorce, he came to my office and cried. I was there as a counselor. You name it. I mean, I am everything to them when they need me. But the most important thing is I always give them. I'm always leading by example. I want them to do something, I do first. I want them to be over there to work Sunday, I come to work Sunday. I want them to feel like I am with them. I'm not the boss, I'm stay home, drinking beer and let them people to work, you know. So leading by example is very important. Be with them, be fair, and support.
And then oh yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. From like leading by example in Schlumberger, how do you engage with your community in Houston?
Engage in community.
Mm-hmm.
Schlumberger have a lot of projects called employee engagement. We have like right now I'm in community in a committee to do something called United Way. United Way is a campaign to raise money for the needy in Houston. Every dollar that we raise, the company match $1, you know, and then we'll go for $5 million, you know, every year to help the United Way. That's Amlayika engagement. We engage in food drive. We engage in school supply for kids. You know, we raise a lot of money and we'll put them in the backpack and we'll send thousands of backpacks like that throughout the Houston community. So it's a lot of engagement for community.
What motivates you to engage in your community in this way?
I'm sorry?
What motivates you and drives you to
I feel this. I feel when I came here, I felt like I'm very fortunate. Okay, I came from the poor country, and when I came here, I feel like I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful that I have opportunity to come here, to come to this country, to excel my ability, to have freedom of speaking, to freedom of religious, all that. And then on top of that, I have the opportunity to raise my kid the way that they want to be raised. So I think I need to pay back to the community. That's it.
How would you describe the Vietnamese American community in Houston?
In 1975, when I came here, it's not many, okay, but 75, now what is that, 45 years later, we have a big community here in Houston. I enjoy the food. I cannot talk about the community, the what do you say? The Vietnamese
American
community. Mr. Nguyen here may know more than me about it, but I try to limit myself not to engage too much in political activity. Political activity. I can do anything, but not political. Anything that gather and things like that, I'm trying not to. I would rather spend time do some charity work. Again, talk about charity. I involved in an orphanage in Vietnam. We collect a lot of money, send back to Vietnam, and help out the orphanage. Where I've been, I came in when I worked for many years ago when the company sent me back to Vietnam to work with the oil and gas company in Vietnam. I had an opportunity to visit a lot of orphanages. That's all I'm interested in. I will see, and then I say, oh, kids. And I come home and I say, I got to do something. So the next trip back to Vietnam, I bought a lot of money. I collect from friends and and then I buy blankets, food, and try to help out as much as I can.
When was the first time you went back to Vietnam after leaving, after migrating to the U.S.?
I came here in 75 and I come home back to Vietnam in 1998, 90? No, 80. 88 or something. Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like? For
you? Unbelievable. I cannot describe that feeling. When I left the country when I was 23 and I came home when I was like 33 or something. That's the best feeling ever, to come back to my country. The first time. It was amazing. And I came back many times after. Okay. The total is 17 times.
17. Do you go every other?
The company sent me, I go.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Do you take your kids to Vietnam?
Yes. Took my first of all, my son. I have a son born in '73. He's 47 years old. Mm-hmm. My daughter is 37 years old. He's born in 1983. So I took both of them back to Vietnam twice. Oh, they love the country. Mm. Oh my God, especially my daughter. She loves the food. She loves all the ancient cities, and she loves Hanoi. She loves all that stuff. And she planned to go back many times. Again, I took her back one trip. I took her back after she graduated from medical school. And we contacted her, the school, the medical school in Saigon, and they say one of the conditions for my daughter to graduate from medical school is to have to spend a few months working volunteer in the hospital. So we chose Vietnam. I say, honey, go back to Vietnam and do that. And so she went back to Vietnam and did volunteer for a few months. And that will make her love the country.
And do you still have family in Vietnam right now?
Not many.
So
I sponsor my mom and all my 7 brothers and sisters, and they're all here with me.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what year was that when you sponsored?
Not all at once. I mean, a year and 2 years later, and 4 years and 5 years, but finally they're all here in Houston.
Are they in Houston?
They are in Houston.
Okay.
One in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
One thing I like to mention is my father, when the communists took over the country in 1975, he escaped. They captured him, but and tried to put him in a concentration camp, but he escaped. And they captured him back 2 years later, in 1977, and again sent him to the camp. And he died 10 years later in the camp. My father passed away in concentration camp.
And were you able to, or how did you figure that? Like, how were you notified of that?
I received a telegram.
Oh, telegram. Okay. And I guess, like, looking back at the war, what is your perspective on the war today?
It's a game of politics. Americans have abandoned us. That's what I only say. Just like I abandoned Iran. I feel like if it's not the interest of the U.S., then we are nothing. They spent billions of dollars and 55,000 dead in Vietnam, and we lost about 2 million people, and the whole country was destroyed by the war for nothing. So when the U.S. lost interest in Vietnam, they get out. So to me, it's good to become America, U.S. enemy than become their friends. It's better become their enemy because they never abandon you. They abandon friends, but they don't abandon enemies. I have bitter in my mouth right now talking about the war. It's just a waste of time, money, life. And it brought Vietnam back to like 50 years behind those countries like Thailand and Singapore and Korea, you know what I'm saying? So we feel like we're very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate.
Do your opinions about U.S. involvement in wars, does that affect how you view America in general? Or do you separate foreign policy with the country itself?
Let me rephrase the question again.
So, does your opinion about the U.S. and its involvement in wars, does that shape how you view the country as a whole? Or do you see the U.S.
I understand, yeah. No, that's different. Have nothing to do with it. The people of this country was nice and beautiful and very good, I would say generous. America is always generous to everything, all the rest of the world. I'm not viewing the policy of this country and just using that and just on the people of America. No, that's totally different things.
What are your hopes for, I guess, third generation Vietnamese Americans and your children?
I hope they will be successful as a second generation. Let me say this to you. Always, this is happened to everybody. Most of the immigrants who came to the United States. The first generation worked real hard to make ends meet, right? And raise the second generation. The second generation always the most always successful, and they are the most successful. But the third generation become, if the second generation don't make the third generation as the first make to the second, then things go to slow down. They're gonna go down. They don't have the discipline. My children don't have the discipline that I put on them to their kids. Does that make sense? Because I set goal. I set objective for them. When I told them this, I came in here speak almost nothing English. Not speak English at all. And I was 23 years old, and I was 25 years old to start college. And if I can get a master's degree, my kids have to have a PhD degree. They have to do better than me, right? And fortunately, both of them achieved those. I set the goal, and they met it. Do they like it or not? I don't know, but they met the goal I set.
So why do you think that your kids have such a different approach to parenting than you had when you were raising your kids?
Say it again.
Why do you think your kids have a different approach to raising their kids?
Because they become Americanized. That's simple. Well, I came in here with a different culture, right? Different tradition. I apply that to my kid. But do my kid apply anything to their kids? I don't know. They may pick up a little of what I gave them and give it back to the third generation. But how do they apply, or how much effective? I don't know. But when I talk to a lot of different people, like my bosses, my friends who immigrate from Germany, England, and all that, Italy, they say their third generation is going down. They know that. I hope it not happen to our Asian community that way. But to them, I mean.
So how would you identify yourself?
Define myself?
Yeah, identify yourself.
I'm a dedicated person. I'm fun. I'm very funny person. I enjoy life. I work hard for my life. Since I was 12 years old, I had to be a father and the oldest with my siblings. When I want to join the U.S., join the army, I was a leader. I came in here and I work hard and raise the kids, raise the family. But again, I value people. I appreciate and grateful for the country that accepted me. I did everything to pay back. And meanwhile, I enjoy my life. This country has offered us a lot of things that none other country offer. Healthcare, for example, educations, job opportunities, all that. So I took opportunity. I'm an opportunist, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So everything, opportunity, I grab it. And I'm a musician.
Oh, so
I sing Vietnamese, I sing English song, and I play keyboard and guitar, and that's my hobbies.
okay.
There's a lot of instruments, and you can see this room.
Do you?
We met like once a month, gather all friends around, drinking wine, and then singing.
Okay, awesome. What kind of Vietnamese like songs do you?
Folk song,
Folk
Vietnamese.
songs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Did you pick it up? Like
I was learning guitar when I was like 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the keyboard I was learning a few years later,
A few years.
just recently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what would you consider your major accomplishments in life are?
My major accomplishment in my life is to raise my kids successfully. Support my wife. She had cancer for like 20 years, 30 years. So it's really hard. But we support each other, and she overcome that illness. That is number two. Number one is to get my kid to have the education they needed. Both of them married, and I have 3 grandchildren. Another accomplishment I have was I have a very successful career. So raise kid, have a good career, support my wife. And the next one, I would like to become a successful singer, but I don't know what that happened.
You got plenty of time.
Yeah, your time.
He's a valuable singer.
Just kidding. All right.
Are your children in Houston?
Yes, one of Houston. My son is a pharmacist.
Mm-hmm.
He married another pharmacist, and both of them have one kid, one son. They live in Houston. My daughter is a cardiologist. She's now assistant professor at University of Chicago. Her husband also a medical doctor, and both of them have 2 kids. They live in Chicago. So my wife would travel to Chicago like once a month.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take care of the kids.
So besides traveling to Vietnam, what other countries do you?
Oh, I've been in Western Europe, most of the countries. I've been in North Europe, Asia, a lot of countries. A lot of countries.
We were wondering, what legacy do you want to leave behind you for future generations?
Legacy. For my next generation, or for
You can interpret it as for your family, or for Vietnamese Americans, or just for society. What impact do you want to make for the future? Or
what impact for the future?
I'd say you've already made quite an impact, so what?
What else? Huh?
Yeah, or even you can reiterate what you've already talked about. Just what do you want your lasting impact to be?
I have to find the right answer, a good answer. The last impact.
Or another way of looking at it is, how do you want to be remembered?
I don't know what else, what accomplishment, what else that I need to do. But I would like to be remembered as a very funny person, very very outgoing person. Very friendly, very generous to charity. Probably that's it. I don't have a bigger goals. All the objective and goal and everything that I set that I already accomplished. But I have a lot of good friends. I have to say this. I live a full life. When you say you live a full life, I don't need anything else. I don't need money. I don't need to be rich. I don't need to be. All I want to be is healthy, to stay, with my grandkids. Other than that, I don't have any dreams or anything else. But become my good health. Good health is the number one that I like for now. Other than that, I don't need anything else. I accomplished most of everything I set to do.
So is there anything we haven't asked you about that you would like to talk about during this interview?
I think we cover most of everything. The Asian community in the United States is growing, and I can see that most of the famous university accepts a lot of Asians due to their intelligence, hardworking. So that is the thing that I will I like the most. I like the whole world to recognize Asians as a group of very, very intelligent, very smart people. When we look around Houston here, you see a lot of successful kids. My wife's family have almost like 20 doctors in the family and lawyers. So the second generation was unbelievable. Like I mentioned, I don't know about the third generation, but that is something that I enjoy. The fruits, and I'm very sure that you both will be successful. You're smart to be accepted to RISE. Congratulations, you did a good job. Anyway, I don't have anything else to say. I thank you, Mr. Nguyen, here who introduced me to you. I hope that my English is understood. I thank you so much for spend time in the cold evening to come to my house interviewing me. This is the first ever in my life I was interviewed. So I hope I'm doing okay.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for
Yeah.
letting me know.
If I struggling a little bit here and there, it's due to my number one is my memory. Number two is I'm struggling to find the verbal, the word. English is an art. Language is an art. If you don't use it, you forget. You know. So there are so many words that I've been using it, but when you ask me, and I say, oh, I can't find the word. Anyway, again, if you don't have any more questions, I appreciate your time, and I wish you successful in your life, which I know that you will be achieving. And remember one thing: you got to do better than the white people in order to become a people. This is their country. I'm not a racist, but I'm saying you got to do better.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Nguyen, for letting us come into your home and interview you on behalf of the archive.